Hey everybody, I'm Mike Sampson here with Matt Singer of ScreenCrush.com, and we're here to talk all things Captain America Civil War in super spoiler details. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you want to pause, go to your theater, see the movie, then come right back, hit play, and we'll continue to be talking about this while we're here. We both have seen the movie, we've got a lot to say, so let's get right to it. I think one of the things that really stood out for me with this movie is that unlike Batman vs. Superman, there isn't
It's good? Oh, sorry.
Yes, well, we'll get to that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
But that the ending doesn't have that big sort of twisty surprise moment that maybe a lot of fans were expecting, or maybe even hoping for, i.e. Captain America does not die, Bucky does not
Nobody
become
really
Captain
dies.
America. No, I mean with the exception of Peggy, who we all sort of knew was going to.
She's an old lady.
She was deathly ill in
Right.
the last movie. You
Right.
sort of expect her to die, but none of the heroes...
no one on either side really.
Or villains.
Anything,
Even
or
really
villains,
die.
right? Well, I guess maybe Crossbones dies in the beginning of the movie, theoretically.
Yes,
you don't
would
really
guess.
see, but
Right.
it's left vague enough that he could potentially come back, but
Sure.
also he could be maybe dead.
So were you surprised at the end when it just everybody is sort of status quo?
I try to avoid the rumors and the
rumor mill.
spoilers, so I didn't know that people were so much expecting to the point where people were writing these articles like, here's 5 people who might die in Civil War. And I've read the original comics, so I knew that Captain America dies sort of at the end of that. It was kind of it was
outside
coda.
of the,
It was really not part of the main storyline, but sort of in the immediate aftermath, Captain America is like kind of put on trial, and during that he's killed. So I thought it was possible, I guess, but I wasn't really, it wasn't the kind of thing where like Batman versus Superman, like when you make Doomsday the character, like what's Doomsday famous for? The one thing that's famous about that storyline is the death of Superman. So I guess I was less shocked. I was a little surprised that there wasn't some kind of big lasting change. I mean, I guess you could say that the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe has been kind of thrown into disarray because Iron Man and Captain America are, they're not getting along, and the Avengers have ostensibly broken up at the end of the movie. But it doesn't feel irreparable, and maybe part of it is just knowing that there's going to be a lot more movies, and there's 2 movies called Avengers coming out in the next couple of years. But yeah, I was a bit surprised that there wasn't something, not necessarily Captain America dying, but somebody. I mean, the closest we come is you have War Machine is Rhodey he's sort of injured. Yeah, he's sort of right. I mean, but by the end of the movie, he's walking. He's walking okay, and I mean, you have to imagine he has a giant suit of armor and that can fly. You have to think he'll be okay. And given the fact that was like sort of in the trailers, all the trailers. Where they made that seem almost like the reason they made that seem like that was the reason that the 2 sides were fighting almost. But that's not the
they
case
very
either.
cleverly edited the trailer so it looks like Winter Soldier when he shoots him out of the sky.
Which is not true. It was
the case at all.
An accident caused by the Vision. There's no Thanos in this movie at all. Was that disappointing, surprising for you?
I liked it. I thought one of the things that was sort of distracting about Age of Ultron was the constant sort of reference to, which was necessary in some degree because of Vision, but also Thor goes off to a spot and he's having visions, and so I thought that was a little much. And I think here what's nice about it is it's very earthbound, aside from a few mentions of Hulk and where Hulk is and what he could be doing up there.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is very much focused on what's going on here. There's no talk of Infinity Stones. Vision mentions it very sort of briefly.
That's it. In terms of spoilers, I had one big question.
Yeah.
Which was this. In the movie, there's a conflict throughout the movie between Captain America and Iron Man about the Sokovia Accords, as they call them, right? Will they sign? Will they not sign? And then they sort of almost resolve that by the end of the movie when there's a late monkey wrench thrown into the works.
Right.
Which is that it turns out that Bucky, when he was as the Winter Soldier, he killed Howard Stark, Tony Stark's dad and mother.
Right.
Which I thought was a kind of a cool little twist and a good reason to keep this animosity going. Right. But as part of the reveal of that, Tony Stark says to Cap, "Did you know about this?"
Yeah.
And he says, "I didn't know it was him." And then he asks him again, and he basically says, yes, I did.
Right.
So my question, this is like the thing that didn't I wasn't quite clear on, even as the super nerd
Right.
who's read a lot of these comics, was did Cap know it? How did he know it? When did he know it? And why is that so unclear in the movie?
I don't think Cap would be the person who would lie about knowing it. Why would he say that? You know,
Right.
There's no reason for him to lie about knowing it. And I don't remember them explicitly saying how he knows. The only thing I can think of is that all this information is sort of out there because of what Black Widow leaked a bunch of documents from
Right.
So she put all the stuff out there in this sort of Edward Snowden data leak.
Right.
And that maybe in some discussion with her that it came up, or Cap was looking through some of this stuff and he discovered it. I mean, if Baron Zemo can find it,
True.
then Cap can certainly find that information, and maybe Tony's just too busy or lazy.
Well,
or
that would be
dumb
my
to
next
figure it out.
question, would be if it's a matter of just reading these documents, Tony Stark has like the most advanced computer on the planet. He
Sure.
doesn't say, "Hey, Friday, do me a favor, just go through this.
See if there's any
anything
mentions
relevant,
to,
anything I need to
Right.
know."
You know, there are parts of this movie that are very serious, but it's also very funny and light and entertaining, which is something that Batman vs. Superman movie just did not do. And that's just one of the ways that this movie is different and better. But what do you think, when you compare these two movies, what do you see in terms of how they do things differently and approach a similar conceit, just in two completely different ways?
Well, I mean, some people don't think it's fair to compare these movies because Marvel is Marvel and DC is DC, and they are doing very different things. And to a certain extent, in terms of the approach, that is true. But it's hard not to see these movies within a month of each other and not compare them, because they are about the same thing, which is the
Right.
sort of what happens when these super beings exist and their actions have unintended consequences.
Right.
How do they react? How does society around them react? Those are the themes of they're the exact same in both movies, and to the point where the previous movie in the sort of chronology leads with a very destructive act, either the destruction of Metropolis in Man of Steel or the destruction of this Sokovia place in Avengers Age of Ultron, leads directly into the motivations for all of the characters.
Right.
You have characters who are sort of like the relatives of people who died,
Or
speaking
were injured in
speaking
the attack.
on the behalf
Right.
of their dead loved
Yeah.
ones. There are characters within the narrative, superheroes who are motivated. There are villains who are motivated. The villains in both movies are ordinary people who are very smart but have no superpowers,
Right.
who are manipulating the heroes into fighting one another.
Sure.
Same exact bad guys.
Right.
I think the key difference, I mean, you can talk about the tones and the darkness of Batman versus Superman, the over-seriousness, or if you liked it, the seriousness.
Right.
I think the main difference that's impossible to dispute, and the reason that Civil War works better, for me, is the fact that this movie comes after 8 years. And they talk about the time in the movie. They say it's been 8 years since Tony Stark became Iron Man. Mm-hmm. It's been 2 years that they've been looking for Bucky. They keep talking about the actual time that's elapsed. And we've had all these movies to watch these characters grow. So by the time they're fighting in this movie, it's not even that we want someone to win. We don't want anyone to win. We don't want anyone to lose.
And really, no one's right. There's no winning argument.
Right, but we like all the characters.
Right.
We don't want to see Iron Man kill Captain America or Cap to kill Iron Man. We don't want anyone to. We love all these characters.
Right.
And so there's a real affection there, and you care what happens. With Batman versus Superman, we had one movie of Superman. We've never seen this Batman before. And they have no backstory, no history. They have nothing except what's going on in this movie, which is, I'm gonna kill you. Like they didn't give that storyline time to build. I think if that was the 5th movie in the DC universe, maybe that could have been great, because there could have been this wedge driven between these two great friends.
Right.
They just didn't have enough time. Like, I feel like the fatal flaw was diving into Batman versus Superman without giving Batman his own movie, without doing some kind of setup for that relationship, to make them instinctually hate each other without ever even meeting. It just made them both seem kind of stupid.
Jerky,
Yeah, mean and stupid. Whereas these are heroes, and they're great characters, and we love them. And while it's okay for them to fight, and we can get into that, it works better if we are emotionally invested in the fight. And I felt that here a lot, and I didn't feel that in Batman vs. Superman. Why don't these characters talk about this at all. They just go,
Yeah.
they go straight to, I have to murder you. There's no like, there's no bit of that conversation. And in this movie, the characters keep putting off this fight.
They don't want to do it, right.
They don't want to do
Right.
it.
Don't
They're
make me
so
do this.
reluctant.
Right.
They keep talking about it. And even during that big fight, they apologize to each other.
Yeah.
They joke about how don't hit me too hard, please.
Right.
You know, like they're friends. They don't want to do it. And you go, well, Bucky, didn't kill Black Panther's dad, which is the whole thing here. And you go, well, why doesn't Bucky say that? And then he says it to him. He says, I didn't kill your father. I'm sorry he's dead.
Right.
And they actually address these things. They talk about them. And I don't know. It just was like, it was refreshing to have that be a part of it, where you get it.
Yeah.
You get why they're fighting, and you also get that they don't really want to fight. And they certainly don't want to hurt each other, even if they're fighting.
Okay, so now that we've both seen it, where does Civil War for you fit in the pantheon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? If you had to give me your top 3 Marvel Studios films, forgetting all the X-Men stuff, just Marvel Studios, where do you rank Civil War amongst those? Does it make it into your top 3? Where do you fit this movie?
No. This one would definitely not be in my top 3. Top 5 maybe, but I don't even think so. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had a great time at this movie. I don't think it's, as a movie, it's quite as kind of perfect and cohesive as some of the earlier movies that were a little bit smaller. And it's a great time, but it's really more of an Avengers movie than a Captain America movie. His name is in the title, but I mean, I would have loved more Captain America. I really like Chris Evans. I like his character a lot. I like the way he plays him. And there are chunks of this movie he's barely in, where it becomes almost Tony Stark's story. And hey, I love Robert Downey Jr. too, but I don't know. It didn't feel as much of a movie about that character as it did the next piece of the Avengers saga, or even larger than that, the Marvel saga.
So if they just called this Avengers Civil War, would you have
I would have
liked it?
I probably would have liked it just as
as
much. But
Okay.
I just think that it's a really fun movie with some great action and tons of fun character beats. But it doesn't really feel as much like a movie, a story, as it does sort of the furthering of a larger narrative in a very entertaining way. Well, that's going to wrap up our discussion of Captain America: Civil War. If you've seen it, you want to leave us a comment below. Be gentle.
Be nice.
But, we want to hear what you have to say, certainly. And for more on Captain America: Civil War, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what's next for the Avengers, all that kind of stuff, keep checking out ScreenCrush.com. We are always writing about these movies, and we've always got a lot to say about them.
Very true.
Yes. Mike, it's been a pleasure.
As it has here. Look forward to talking to you for
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is coming up.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
It won't be long, I'm sure.
We'll be back before you know it. So until then, stay tuned. Excelsior!